gigantic government sucks. Pursuit of happiness, radio is deluxe. Liberty and freedom will make you smile. The pursuit of happiness on your radio dial. Just as cheeseburgers and liberty fries, it's pursuit of happiness time.
Okay, the Harris campaign has now raised $1 billion. That's $1 billion with a B. And as I know, a lot of you probably also know that money didn't exactly come from small donors. They didn't raise $1 billion off of childless cat ladies coughing up $20 a pop. No, they got that money from, well, people like the executives at Disney who happen to own ABC News, who happened to host a debate this week with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Maybe you've heard. After raising $1 billion, Kamala laughed and clapped and danced, and then she heard about how much money she raised. Taylor Swift has now endorsed Kamala Harris, even though her cats apparently are endorsing Donald Trump. I'm sure you could probably understand why. Meanwhile, Katy Perry has endorsed Kamala. Katy, listen, I know you don't follow me on social media, but if you did, I would tell you right now, you don't have to copy Taylor Swift for attention anymore. Just go back to doing what you used to do. Show your boobs. That's what people really want to see. Oh, and Elon Musk, always a generous man. Elon Musk has offered to give Taylor Swift a baby in response to her saying that she's a childless cat lady. Elon promised to impregnate her. I thought that was very generous. In totally unrelated news, Taylor Swift has thrown up a little bit in her mouth. I heard it just happened. I kid. I like Elon. Anyway, I'm Kenny Webster. Thanks so much for tuning into this live stream on both the radio and the internet. I'm on social media right now, but so we're streaming on various platforms, Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and that sort of thing. But as always, this is a talk radio show that could be heard on KPRC 950 in Houston, Texas. That's the oldest radio station in town. Oh, this radio show is just on AM. No, that's not true. We're also on FM 94.5 3 HD. You could tune in there. That's how I listen to myself. No, I don't. But hey, anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to spend a lot of time, since I wasn't here with you guys yesterday, I had to go to the dentist yesterday. Don't worry, my teeth are fine, as if you were worried. Oh, you're not worried? Okay. Well, anyway, I didn't get to do a recap of the debate on my afternoon show yesterday. So I'm not going to make this all about the debate today, but I feel like it deserves some attention. And the polling data, at this point, you've all heard the fact checks. You know about all the lies. You've heard this sort of thing over and over again. But how has this actually affected the election? So we'll talk about that. And my guest will be Daniel Turner from Power of the Future. He's stopping by. And Christian Collins from the Texas Youth Summit. I'll be speaking at the Texas Youth Summit next week with Don Jr. and Congressman Wesley Hunt, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Riley Gaines, Lauren Boebert, Troy Nell, so many great people at that event. I hope you guys will be there. But first, let's start out with this. John Nolte compiled together some of the responses that people gave to the debate and how it affected what undecided voters really thought across 5 states, swing states. And what we discovered is that they are not really being persuaded by media pundits who overwhelmingly believe that Kamala Harris won the debate. I think that most people see that debate for what we saw it for. Donald Trump's having an argument with David Moore. And then, of course, the other one, Lindsay Davis, is actually one of Kamala Harris's sorority sisters. Well, according to independent voters polled and interviewed by the New York Times, the biggest problem was actually Kamala's lack of specific policy proposals. She didn't actually give any policy proposals. That's an issue that has haunted her ever since the successful coup of the Democrat Party, because that's really what it was, wasn't it? Yeah, Obama, he's kind of been running a shadow government this whole time. I think he's even admitted out loud that if he could continue to be secret president, he would. Anyway, listen to this. The New York Times reports, quote, Bob and Sharon Reed, both 77-year-old retired teachers who live in a farm in central Pennsylvania, kind of an important state in this election, had high hopes for the debate. Both assumed the debate would make up their minds. It did not. Sharon said it was very disappointing. The couple ended the night wondering how the costly programs each candidate supported would be paid for, and they didn't hear any detailed answers on immigration or foreign policy. What they got was a bunch of talk about January 6th. What they got was a bunch of talk about Donald Trump saying things like very fine people and bloodbath hoaxes and things we'd heard about before. So these undecided voters have a right to complain about Kamala. They also complain that Kamala did not seem much different from Mr. Biden, and they wanted a change. Kamala Harris is actually running as if she's not the incumbent candidate. And the ABC News moderators kind of helped her out with that point, didn't they? Anyway, listen, the New York Times report continues, quote, she didn't kind of separate herself from a Biden, a Wisconsin undecided voter told the Times, although she did like what Harris said about Mr. Trump's role in the riot on January 6th. Oh, okay, well, that's good. Meanwhile, a 19-year-old Milwaukee college student said she was impressed by Kamala, but once again, the lack of policy failed to close the deal. These people want to like Kamala. She's a woman. She's a POC. I don't know what else she is, but that's really important. Being a woman and being a POC is really important in an election like this one. And they want to hate Trump, but they don't have a reason yet to like Kamala. They want to hate Trump because, after all, you know, Trump is old and white and he's a Republican. And I'm sure pretty much every Democrat agrees those are all things that they would hate. They would never align themselves with someone who would align themselves with old white Republicans.
I actually have the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney and Satan. That's next.
The Sith Lord is back.
Like a demon, it rises again.
Dick Cheney, Darth Vader, Satan.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
We don't need Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney was dangerous, that war hawk.
The only thing you got to do is just be better than Dick Cheney.
I like to see Dick Cheney exposed. He's a liar.
I actually have the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Is this great or what? Guys, is this great or what? You are now on the same side as Darth Vader, Hitler, and Satan himself, because that's how much you hate Donald Trump. It is just beautiful.
So we're supposed to live within our income so we can afford to pay taxes to a government that can't live within its income? Yeah, that. Kenny Webster's Pursuit of Happiness.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for getting connected to this video. Recording some segments right now for my afternoon show. My guests this afternoon are going to be Daniel Turner from Power of the Future. If you don't know who that is, follow him on Twitter. He is absolutely brilliant. And next week, this weekend, I'm in New Orleans with a bunch of our listeners. From 10 a.m. to noon, we'll be at the New Orleans Harley-Davidson on Saturday morning. And there's going to be some special guests there as well. It's not just going to be me and Steve and the usual Walton and Johnson crew. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but let's just say there's going to be certain popular cable news talk show host will be joining us, but I don't want to say any more than that. In the meantime, stick around because I'm going to record another segment right now. You guys could be a part of it, so hold on. First, we need some royalty-free music. There we go. Oh, good. Who doesn't love royalty-free music? You know what else I love? Haitian immigrants. You have to love Haitian immigrants, or else you're a racist. And I'm sure you love Haitian immigrants. Who doesn't? Everybody loves Haitian immigrants except for ducks, geese, and kitty cats. But Haitian immigrants are actually they're leaving Springfield. They're leaving Springfield and Ohio itself. They're heading down to Louisiana, where there was just a tropical storm last night, a hurricane. I guess they heard Hurricane Francine is causing it to rain cats and dogs. So, yeah, that's why they went there. Oh, you thought that was a dumb, lame joke. Well, you're right. But if people are eating cats and dogs and I write tacky jokes for a living, how do you expect me to not make fun of this? Meanwhile, UFC President Dana White says Kamala is not fit to run the country. And I agree with Dana White, but I still want to hear from Vince McMahon before I make up my mind, and I'm sure most of you guys agree. And Shake Shack said they will give away chicken sandwiches on Sunday during the NFL season. And for Haitian migrants, it's going to have to give out kitty cats. I'm sure they will. That'll be delicious. If you're just turning on this live stream or this live radio broadcast, we've been talking about the aftermath. What happened after the debate? You all watched the debate. You all saw, you watched Donald Trump argue with David Moore and Lindsey Davis, who is actually interestingly enough, Kamala Harris's sorority sister. I found that that's an odd coincidence. The two of them are in the same sorority. Maybe that would explain why she was helping Kamala out during the debate. No, that couldn't be it. But townhall.com actually posted some polling data. And what it details is how maybe Kamala Harris needs to halt her post-debate victory lap. They did a survey of swing state voters taken during and after Tuesday's debate. And what they overwhelmingly said, this was the Joint Trafalgar Insider Advantage Survey. Trafalgar. Is there any polling group that doesn't have a silly name? Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac. What? How do you say? No one knows how to say that. Trafalgar. These sound like the names of exotic Swiss chocolates. And maybe you could just buy, I don't know, get the Trafalgar wrapper and put it on the Hershey's chocolate bar and give it to your girlfriend as a gift. She'll think you spent a lot of money on expensive, fancy chocolate. Anyway, Trafalgar did a survey of likely general election voters in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, basically the swing states. And what they found, interestingly enough, is that before the debate, they all thought that Harris won the debate, but they didn't find themselves more likely to vote for Harris. They just thought Trump had a bad time on stage. Before the debate, 47% of these people were pro-Trump, 47% were pro-Harris. After the debate, 49% of them were pro-Trump, 49% of them were pro-Harris. Wait, so they just became more sure of who they were already going to vote for? This didn't change anybody's mind? That almost sounds to me like they weren't like they weren't voters that didn't know who they were going to vote for, right? Like maybe they actually knew who they were going to vote for. They're just pretending they didn't know. No, that never happens, right? People pretending that they're undecided voters. I think, let me flip over to my other screen here. For those of you watching me on social media, I have some footage here from after the debate, and this is CNN. I don't know when CNN became a news outlet. I'm kind of impressed by this, but watch.
First debate winner margins. Look at that. She won by a 26-point margin, nearly matching Trump's margin over Biden back in June when he won by 34 points. Very similar to Joe Biden's margin of over Donald Trump back in 2020 of 32 points, and significantly higher than the 2016 margin that Hillary Clinton had over Donald Trump in their first debate, just 13 points. But the bottom line here is debate watchers, and they actually leaned a little bit more Republican.
Let's just pause right there for just a second. For those of you that are looking at this on the screen, in 2016, everybody agreed that Hillary Clinton defeated Donald Trump by 13 points in a debate. Everybody agreed. You guys all saw that, right? You remember him famously saying, wrong, right? That was what he was famous for saying. But now we're supposed to believe that even though she won the debate, she didn't win the election. So did she win the debate, or is it that these just pollsters are wrong? Same thing here in 2020. Do you remember there was a debate where Biden didn't even really get to talk because Trump kept interrupting him? And don't get me wrong, I found that to be hilarious. They say he won that debate by 32 points? Really? Okay. The debate that Joe Biden won by 32 points was matched in its success by the debate where Donald Trump actually crushed Biden so badly that he wasn't even a candidate anymore. That's what happened earlier this summer. Nothing like that has ever happened before. I mean, that's 30. Look at this on the screen here. I'll point it to 34 points, 32 points. So in 2020, Joe Biden didn't talk, and he won the debate by 32 points. In 2024, Joe Biden didn't talk, and Trump won the debate by 34 points. No, that tells me polling data is just wrong. And then last night, the stolen valor, earlier this week, the stolen valor went to Kamala Harris because she didn't win the debate. If anything, David Moore won the debate, or sorority sister Lindsay Davis, but I digress. All right, so in the meantime, there's another great correction here I want to show you guys on the screen for those of you that are watching me on social media. Earlier this week, they didn't fact check her. So we look at the polling data and we see how they think, maybe Kamala won the debate, but nobody's more likely to vote for her. They were just already going to vote for her. And since they didn't fact check her, Time Magazine, at a very embarrassing moment here, far left Time Magazine was forced to issue a really humiliating correction yesterday when they admitted Kamala Harris supports taxpayer-funded gender reassignment surgery for illegal aliens. First, they came out and they said that Trump was lying. Then they said that he wasn't, and it was a hard lie for them to press on people because I think you guys remember me playing this the other day on the show. Even CNN admitted it.
Here, she said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she supported
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants.
She
actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this, and she said she also supported Japan.
All right, pause it right there. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep playing that. Look at what's on the screen right here, you guys. Let's pause it right there. End ICE detainment. Decrease funding for ICE. Slash immigrant detention by 50%. I think they've already done that. Taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. The left has the silliest ideas about how to deal with criminal justice. Illegal immigration aside, like, okay, fine. Now we've got to give free houses and addictomy operations to illegal immigrants. Okay, fine. We've heard this before, but forget about illegal immigrants for a minute. Remember in California and New Jersey when they said, you know what we ought to do? You know what we ought to do? We ought to let the trans women, which just means not a woman, really. That's all that means, biological men. We should let the trans women live with the real women in prison cells. Because after all, they say that they're women. Why should we force them to be with men? That wouldn't be fair. What happened next? You don't have to look hard, pun intended, to find the answer to the question that I just asked. The pregnancy rate of imprisoned women, incarcerated women behind bars in places like Southern California and New Jersey skyrocketed. It's like, wow, it went from 0 to multiple cases overnight. Wow, you don't say. You mean to say that some guy that got sent to prison for rape or sexual assault told the warden, you know what, I just realized I'm a woman. Are you sure? Because you raped a woman with your penis. So that makes us think maybe you're a dude. No, I'm definitely a woman. Yeah, I've got a penis, but it's a woman's penis. Yeah, here, I'll show you right here. It's a woman's penis. Hang on, let me see. Oh, yeah, that's a woman's penis. I'd know a woman's penis when I see one. All right, this is a woman. Send her to the women's prison. And then they send this person to the women's prison, and he gets all the women pregnant. Just pow, 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 left and right. There's nothing to do in jail but have sex, do drugs, and read the Bible. And sadly, most people don't do the third thing, I'm told. But anyway, so Time Magazine had to begrudgingly issue that correction. And on top of Time being staffed with lousy, lazy, partisan, left-wing activists who spread misinformation and lie to you, now they've spread this lie that taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegal immigrants is never something Kamala would support, even though she wrote down that she supported it and she said in an interview she supported it. And here's the thing. If her policies are so bad that we have to lie about them, why is it so important to get her into office? Nobody actually wants communism. They just say they want communism until communism shows up at your doorstep. You ever notice how fat Americans living under capitalism love communism, but skinny, malnourished people in third world countries that are actually dealing with communism are trying to flee from those hellholes on a boat and get to this country as fast as they can? There's a reason why people are leaving Cuba and Venezuela and so many other far left countries, China, for example, to come and live here. And it's not because we have communism. No, just the opposite.
The only thing that hurts more than paying taxes? Not paying taxes. Kenny Webster's Pursuit of Happiness.
Pay your taxes. I don't like paying taxes. You know what I didn't have time to do there was list off. I got a list together. Sean Fleetwood. A lot of people have been compiling the lies that Kamala told because they didn't fact check her during the debate. So there's so many of these things. The obvious one was this. Kamala claimed to have grown up as a middle-class kid. Kamala said she grew up middle class. This is a lie. Her father was a tenured college professor, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Her mother was a biomedical scientist at the University of California, Berkeley. You know how much professors and scientists get paid at UC Berkeley? Probably a lot more than most of us do. She falsely insinuated that the 2017 tax cuts that they disproportionately benefited America's billionaires. Not true. Here's how we know it's not true. Those tax cuts might go away soon, and a lot of billionaires, interestingly enough, are supporting and throwing money at Kamala Harris. If those billionaires would benefit so much from a Donald Trump presidency, why do they want Kamala Harris to get elected? The answer is really simple, guys. Because Kamala Harris is the candidate that's good for billionaires. It's not because all these billionaires are secretly generous, nice people. If they were, why is the left trying to vilify them while secretly trying to help them? Trump's sales tax was another one of Kamala's talking points. Harris claimed that Trump will implement a sales tax. And of course, what she was talking about was tariffs, right? Trump has not pledged to do such a thing if elected president. And tariffs, by the way, are not a sales tax. Harris contended that the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Now, she said this on the eve of 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11, also the anniversary of Benghazi, right? We all forget about that one. And, oh, by the way, we had a little thing since then called Pearl Harbor. Maybe she doesn't care about that. Maybe she liked when Japanese imperialists attacked the United States. I don't know. But I do know she claimed Trump will implement Project 2025 if elected. Trump has repeatedly said he has nothing to do with it. He's claimed he's never read it. I believe him. Do you think he looked it up online? I doubt he did. Just restoring Roe. When asked whether Kamala supports any restrictions on abortion, she dodged the question completely. And then Lindsey Davis went on to say, actually, there's no state in America where late-term abortion is legal. It's legal in the state where Kamala Harris's running mate is the governor. It's called Minnesota. His name's Tim Walz. I know they don't want to talk about him much right now because he's been an embarrassment to her campaign, but the facts are the facts. They don't care what you think. Moments before that, Harris pledged to sign a legislation ill-named the Women's Health Production Act, which actually codifies abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. She just signed this thing. And then she goes on to the debate later and says, I never did that. Forget that. Pro-life laws criminalize miscarriages is a thing that they tell you over and over again. Ectopic pregnancies. There's this video they play on YouTube a lot. Maybe you guys have seen it because some of you are watching me on YouTube right now, where a woman claims she needed an abortion to save her life and Ted Cruz wouldn't let her do it. Well, first of all, Ted Cruz hasn't actually written any laws about abortion in the state of Texas. It's a political ad for Colin Allred, his opponent. The abortion laws in the state of Texas were created by people in the Texas state legislature. They don't have anything to do with Ted Cruz. He doesn't work in Austin. He works in Washington, D.C. But facts schmacks, don't let that get in the way of a good narrative. Kamala Harris and people like Colin Allred are out right now telling you that there are women in the parking lots of emergency rooms all over the state of Texas bleeding out of their uteruses and ovaries because they can't get the abortion for their ectopic pregnancy that they desperately need. If that was true, don't you think that would be on the news every single day? Don't you think there'd be a story about it right now? There's not, because it's a lie. In the state of Texas, you could get an abortion if the mother's life is on the line. You could do that. It's already a thing. There's no policy against it. They're lying to you. And by the way, if there was some doctor somewhere who believed that that was the law and there was a woman bleeding out in his emergency room begging for an abortion that would save her life, don't you think he would still give her the abortion? Especially when you consider how much he would be made into a hero by our national news media were he to do it. Again, don't let facts get in the way of a good narrative. So Trump's abortion stance is all a lie. They say 9-month abortions don't exist. They exist. But then there's the subject of the border bill. Harris claimed a congressional border bill proposed earlier this year would have stopped illegal immigration. That's not true. They've said this a lot. They said, the Democrats wanted to do something about illegal immigration. It's the Republicans that wouldn't do anything about it. It's a bipartisan bill, they told us over and over again. It wasn't. Earlier this year, the Democrats briefly proposed a bill that would have allowed thousands of illegal immigrants to come into our country every day, and then at a certain point, they just put a cap on it and tell them to come back tomorrow. Get in line, come back tomorrow. So that's not exactly stopping illegal immigration. But even if you're in favor of that, if the reason why you're in favor of that is for your humanitarian beliefs, as so many on the left have suggested, imagine telling people that for the good of humanity, you want people to crawl through the desert for days and then wait in line at the South Texas border in the middle of the summer when it's 115 degrees out so you can maybe get into America legally at some point. Does that sound like a humanitarian solution to the immigration crisis? It's not. Telling these people to stop coming over the border illegally and asking them to apply for asylum or refugee status or just the good old-fashioned way that we used to allow people into the country, that would be a humanitarian approach. This isn't hard to understand. Kamala Harris miscategorized the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. They do this a lot. Over and over again, they've told you, well, the way that the Supreme Court sees it, you could just walk out into the street and murder someone. And if you're the president, you won't get into any trouble for it. No, that's not true. The U.S. Supreme Court said the president has absolute immunity for actions within his conclusive and pre-conclusive constitutional authority as president. If what you were doing was an act of the presidency, yeah, you could be protected for it. And I would think the Democrats would be thankful for that. Imagine how many people have been murdered in this country over the last 3 years by illegal immigrants. I mean, it's at least hundreds. It's a pretty high number. If it wasn't for presidential immunity, we could put Joe Biden in prison for helping to murder those people. Oh, or what about the 13 service members killed while waiting outside the airport in Kabul? They could all go to prison. That could be a reason to send Joe Biden to prison. Every president who's ever had people die in war or at the border or as a result of their policies by the hands of some criminal somewhere would have to worry about going to prison if it wasn't for immunity for the president. Those are official acts of the presidency. Kamala Harris claims she made herself very clear in 2020, no fracking. That's what she said. I think I even have a clip of this. Let's put that up on the screen real quick. I'll get that over here. This was one of the things that pissed me off the most because I live in Texas. I live in a city, not just some city, where oil and gas is kind of important. I live in the energy capital of the world, Houston, Texas. I love living in Houston. I don't want to see people in this state lose their jobs.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
All right, stop right here. This is interesting for a couple of reasons. This was the one moment during the debate when Lindsey Davis even pretended to be critical of Kamala Harris, even pretended to give her a tough question. Listen to how quickly Kamala answers this question. Do you think this wasn't pre-rehearsed? Of course it was.
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act.
Stop right there. The Inflation Reduction Act had nothing to do with fracking. But okay, that's fine. She says back in 2020, she made it crystal clear she was always for legal fracking. She was always in favor of it. Well, it turns out...
Fracking. So, yeah.
Sorry, hang on. I didn't have a chance to switch the video yet. Turns out the internet always remembers. Here's Kamala Harris with some white lady who claims to hate fracking, actually from Pennsylvania.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
All right. So what do you want, guys? There she is. That's her, 2020. She said 2020. That's what she said. You remember in Minnesota? I know it's hard to remember George Floyd. That was so long ago at this point. Do you guys remember in 2020, there were riots all over the country every day for months. It went on for most of the year. I think it start in April, and it basically went right up until the election, right? And the media could have cared less about any of these riots. Didn't care at all. Now, January 6th, that was very important. That was the single most important riot of your life, but all the other riots didn't matter. Now, as it turns out, Kamala Harris is actually the person who bailed a lot of those rioters, not the January 6th rioters, the other ones, out of prison. Got them out of prison. Harris seemingly denied that she undertook efforts to bail out left-wing rioters. At the debate, Trump said she went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people that burned down Minneapolis out of jail. She raised money to get them out of jail. Actually, guys, she did. Accused rapists, repeat offenders, rioters alike all benefited in June 2020 when Kamala Harris encouraged her social media followers to donate to a bail fund. I got to give her credit for this because they could have taken this down. The tweets still exist, guys. These aren't even, they're still out there. They're still on the internet. Hang on, I'll show you guys this on the screen real quick. Let me hop around here. Here you go. Here, look at this. If you're able to, chip into the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Now, I don't know that Twitter account exists anymore. Look, they took the link no longer works. Isn't that great? Isn't that just amazing? Hang on. Can we pull that up real quick? What happened to the Minnesota Freedom Fund? This is great. In an effort to help out Kamala, their old group does it exist? Is it there? Minnesota. Guys, I don't think it exists anymore. Where did it go? Wait, oh, there it is. Okay, well, I'm wrong. Okay, I was wondering why the link didn't work. Look, Minnesota Freedom Fund. Wow, how about that? Okay, so it does still exist. That shows what I know. I didn't know that. Okay. A little bit of egg on my face there. But the point still stands, guys. She raised money for this thing. The tweet still exists. It's right there on her account. Isn't that amazing? It's just beautiful. So it turns out she did raise money to get them out of prison. And they were some pretty bad guys as well. The lies continue. January 6 deaths. very fine people hoax, bloodbath hoax, Trump's NATO comment. She really distorted those. But at the end of the day, it all amounts to one thing. They're lying to you, which is nothing new. So you can't blame people for wondering if people are eating cats in places like Springfield, Ohio, or if Kamala Harris was wearing a tiny earpiece that let her hear messages from her staff members during the debate, because we know that the people that own ABC News are Kamala Harris political campaign donors. We know that. We know that Disney owns ABC News and the CEO of Disney donated to Kamala's campaign. We know that. We know that Kamala Harris's sorority sister, Lindsay Davis, was one of the debate moderators. We know that. We know that David Moore, that's a fun name to say. We know that David Moore asked Kamala in 2020 if she would support an executive order on a gun ban. She said yes, and then David Moore didn't correct her in 2024 during a different presidential debate with a different candidate when Kamala Harris said she never supported gun bans. Not only did she support gun bans, she said it in a presidential debate back in the 2020 presidential debate season with the same debate moderator, David Moore. If it wasn't for lies, they wouldn't have anything to say. I'm Kenny Webster. I could go on and on. IVF, defunding the police, Trump's foreign policy records, gun confiscation. Let me count the ways that they have lied to us. There's so many ways that they've done so. But since you're all paying attention, this weekend I'm going to be in New Orleans at the New Orleans Harley-Davidson with the Walton and Johnson crew from 10 to noon. Come hang out for that. And then next weekend, not this weekend, I will be at the Texas Youth Summit with Don Jr., Wesley Hunt, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Riley Gaines, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, Troy Nels, so many different people, mostly MAGA Republicans. As you guys know, I am more of a liberty Republican than a MAGA Republican, but, you know, I'd rather hang out with people who I disagree with on tariffs than hang out with people who I disagree with on everything. And I hope you guys will be at that event with me. Let me get caught up on some of your comments. Good morning to you, Paul. Paul attended the Texas Youth Summit last year. I hope he's there. GW says Nova H1 earrings is what she was wearing, so Trump was debating against 4 people. I actually do believe, I don't know that she had hearing aids in her, that she had little, speakers in her ear, but that's really simple technology. And I have noticed the only people that are casting doubt on it are like older people. They're baby boomers that don't understand how easily accessible that technology is in 2024. It's really easy to get. Bone conduction headphones is what they're called. They press against your temple and you can hear things. I own them, so I know that they're real. And that's why it's not hard for me to believe that she had them. But I don't know, and you don't know either. Sean says, don't forget about the fish on the streets of Kenner, brah. Oh, yeah. Kenner Bra. For those that don't know, that's a town in South Louisiana. And you're supposed to say Kenner Bra. You're supposed to say, if the town's called Kenner, if you're not from South Louisiana, but when you say Kenner, you're supposed to say bra right afterwards because that's how people talk there. And apparently there's fish swimming through the streets after the hurricane they had yesterday, supposedly. I'm told by my friends in New Orleans the hurricane didn't do much damage, so we're definitely going to have an event there this weekend. Cherie says neither her or the people in her ear wanted to answer anything correctly because they know she's not going to change or fix anything. Well, that's true, right? Kamala was very happy to list off all the already debunked myths and conspiracy theories that I just walked through. IVF, the very fine people hoax, the bloodbath hoax, the Russian collusion hoax, the January 6th deaths. She was happy to talk all about that at the debate because she knew she wouldn't get corrected. There's no other reason for it. She wasn't even afraid to list those things off. Donald Trump made points that were subjectively his opinion, and David Moore still corrected him on it. Said, remember the whisker, the lost by a whisker thing? Trump said that he made that point, and then David Moore said, well, what, were you being serious? And Trump said, no, I was being sarcastic. And David Moore goes, you weren't being sarcastic. Like, David, nobody gives a shit what your opinion is. You don't get to tell us. That's not why you're moderating the debate. We don't have you moderating a debate to get your opinions. I don't think they know that. Or they do know that, and they just think they'll get away with it, which, to their credit, they're correct about that. Let's keep reading your comments. Let's see here. Lindsay says, ectopic pregnancies aren't viable and are detrimental for the women's life. The lies are insurmountable. You are correct about that. McLoving on X says, maybe they could get care if there wasn't so many illegals. Well, this is an interesting point. Do you remember back in the summer of 2021 or 2020, I think it was 2021, Rolling Stone magazine ran this story about how people in emergency rooms all over Oklahoma were overdosing on ivermectin, and it was so bad that gunshot victims weren't able to get treatment and were dying. Turns out it wasn't true. There were no such cases of gunshot victims dying because somebody was being treated for ivermectin. Didn't matter. Rolling Stone ran the article, and there were enough people that wanted the story to be true that they repeated the lie. Rush used to call this the drive-by media. And then by the time it got quietly corrected on page 68 of some newspaper you don't read, nobody cared. Everybody had moved on at that point. It's the same thing with the ectopic pregnancies. They claim that people are bleeding out in the parking lots all over America at hospitals because they can't get a life-saving abortion in red states. Any evidence of that being true? There's none. Where are all these women bleeding out of their uteruses whose lives we need to save? Look, I'll be the first person in line to help them. If that law exists, change the law right now and let's save their lives. I could tell you here in my state, this state right here, a state called Texas, we don't have a law like that. There are political ads currently running on YouTube claiming that's the law. It's not. It's a lie. But apparently you can lie in a political ad on YouTube. They don't care. But I once got flagged and suspended from YouTube for accurately predicting the results of the California special election between Larry Elders and Gavin Newsom. I predicted that Larry Elders would lose, and I told everybody why I thought that, and then YouTube made me take the video down for spreading election misinformation. And my prediction was correct. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Up is down, down is up. More of your comments before we get out of here? Let's read a few more of them. Back to the chat here. The Summer of Love, Lindsay calls it. That's correct. Let's see. Lindsay says 8 states have no limit on abortion. Can abort up until after. I knew it was more than one state, but the thing that's so remarkable about this is one of those states is Tim Walz's state. It's Kamala's running mate. You're telling me they don't know what the laws are in Minnesota? I doubt it. Molly asked if Kimberly Guilfoyle will be at the event next week at the Texas Youth Summit. She will be. She's a very awesome woman. I've met her before, hung out with her. Very cool. Jason says she kept her right ear covered real well with her hair most of the time. I believe she had a bud in that ear. The claim is that it was an earring with bone conduction technology, which, like I explained before, is really easy. If you don't believe me, I have a lot of headphones because I work in radio and I run a lot. I don't know if you guys know that about me. I work in radio and I'm a runner. I talk about it all the time, like somebody that does CrossFit or is a vegan. And I own a pair of bone conduction, Shokz.com. SHOKZ is how they spell that. They're not even expensive. It's really easy technology to get. And it's right here. It's a speaker right there against your face. Jason says, oh, I just read that one. Molly says, no damage in Opelousas, Slopaloosus. I can't say the names of these places in Louisiana. I feel like I'm reading like a Dr. Seuss book. Where are you from? I'm from Opelousas, Opelousas, Opelousas. I don't mean to make fun of Louisiana. You know I love you. But I think you guys know these words are hard to pronounce. Dale from Georgia says, I always love Dale's comments. Dale says, they may need to implement secret New World Order Neuralink technology into Kamala now that the cat is out of the bag. And if the cat is out of the bag, Dale, I'm sure we know who's going to eat that cat and whose vote it will affect, Taylor Swift and the Haitians. To that, I say I love you all. Thank you for watching. If you don't mind sharing this video, I know it, maybe you don't want to scare your in-laws with some right-wing propaganda, but if you don't mind sharing the video, I'd be grateful for that. And if you're watching this video and you don't follow me on social media and you want to give me a follow, I'd be grateful for that too. I promise lots of high-quality content. I'm not one of those the sky is falling guys. I don't know if we're living in the end of times. I assume we're probably not. I know things aren't great, and there's a lot of people out there that give political news and commentary. I think I'm one of the people that does it with a sense of humor, a little tongue-in-cheek, and I don't take myself that seriously, and hopefully that makes my content worth looking at. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Have an awesome day. I'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning for more of What You Bought a Radio For.